Hello everyone, my name is Strange, and I believe that people need to know the truth. Why can the authorities hide such information? In general, there are a great many options, starting with the most obvious and ending with those that we can't even imagine. So let's go through the most famous and interesting of them. Opposing aliens. What if several alien civilizations collided on Earth, but they came into contact with different countries? In this case, hiding information about aliens is more than logical for the government, because the technologies of extraterrestrial civilizations are superior to any human. This can be called an arms race, just going on at a deeper level, hidden from ordinary citizens. After all, alien civilizations know about each other, but most likely have opposite or simply competing goals. In this case, the disclosure of information about the presence of one civilization to the world will entail the imminent destruction of either the country or all agents of this civilization in the country by their competitors. One of the simplest reasons for suppressing information, but no less interesting. Deification. A person is prone to make mistakes. A person is prone to understand things wrong. It is possible that the aliens have been in contact with humanity for a long time, so much so that in the story of the guests from distant worlds, they turned into gods. Gods and their closest companions, who helped people, and the many-faced evil that destroyed people or turned them into slaves, even if they were not called such. The gods of ancient Egypt with animal heads, or the feathered serpent of the Aztecs, Quetzalcoatl, one of the main gods of their pantheon. Could it be that people simply began to deify those who helped them, forming a kind of cargo cult, but only for guests from the distant emptiness of space? Quite. In this case, the truth is hidden not so much by the government as by the church, and perhaps by the aliens themselves. Realizing that it was much easier to present themselves as gods, they decided to stick to this position in negotiations, because the priests of people will find something to say to their followers anyway. The inability to realize. Humanity in general, and man in particular, has one very serious problem. We tend to attribute human properties and qualities to something that is not human. And blinded by this flaw, we are simply unable to see the aliens. The rigidity of thinking and this problem simply obscure our view. The most popular type of aliens are gray, sometimes green or some other, humanoid men, similar to us in more parameters. And moreover, we dare to hope that visitors from other worlds will be able to understand humanity, that they will not be alien to our values, our thoughts, and our ideals. What can an immortal, intelligent gas think about the value of life? Nothing. For him, there is no concept of life, as well as the concept of death. What about a race of intelligent insects? A society where a single queen rules everything, and where everything obeys her. The lives of individual members of the hive are not important, but at the same time, the existence of the queen is incredibly valuable. Would we be able to find a common language with such creatures? Could we at least notice them if we wanted to? Not to mention making constant contact. In this case, the government hides the information in order to prevent mass shock and the subsequent witch hunt, because it is natural for a person to be afraid of the unknown. Humanity is not ready. Let's imagine that we were lucky. The alien race turned out to be at least not hostile, and we managed to find a common language with them. But what will happen if we reveal their existence to society now? A massive shock. That's what will happen. Humanity, even in our enlightened time, is torn apart by tons of contradictions. In some countries, it is considered normal to kill other people if they do not profess your faith. Even a difference in skin color or style of thinking makes one person an outsider to a group of people. But what happens if there are those who do not look like us at all? Mass protests, pogroms, culture shock for the entire population of the Earth is provided. And if the aliens turn out to be like mythical creatures from religion or legends, then things will take a much worse turn. Humanity is still subject to superstitions and misconceptions, so the next season of the witch hunt will be provided. Someone will start protecting the aliens, someone will demand their destruction. Soon it will result either in a bloody conflict or in a series of terrorist acts with victims, which will certainly spoil relations between our races. If we assume that the aliens have made contact with only one country, then making this fact public will make this country the #1 enemy for everyone else. Humanity is not united, and if there is even the slightest chance that the contactor country has sold the rest of humanity to aliens for its own benefit, then they will believe it, especially if the original opponents of this country start broadcasting this in the media. In this case, hiding information about the contact is the most reasonable step. No one can tell anymore. This is one of the worst versions. Let's assume that humanity really came into contact with extraterrestrial forces, but everything went according to the worst scenario, and the contactors were eliminated by the alien guests themselves, or something worse happened to them than even death. In the end, Cordyceps does not kill its victims, but takes control and makes them work for themselves. What prevents the aliens from having abilities and inclinations similar to this mushroom? In this case, the government has either already fallen, completely infected, or replaced by doppelgangers, or it is waging a secret and most likely heavy war against an alien infection. But wouldn't it be more logical in the second case to make this information public so that citizens could try to protect themselves? This is logical, but only if we are sure that the invasion is massive. If there are few guests or they appear in small groups, it is more profitable to keep the information secret in order to avoid mass paranoia and unrest. After all, someone would definitely raise a panic, and someone would see in the aliens the next gods/demons/higher powers, and would worship them out of faith or in search of personal gain. Maybe the government has fallen and won't tell us anything about it anymore. Or maybe it's holding a blow and waging a secret war. Silence. The penultimate version is that we are aliens, or rather their distant descendants. Someone or something forced our ancestors to flee from their home planet and stop here, on the ground. For billions of years, first of gradual regression and decline, and then of repeated evolution, we have forgotten a lot and lost almost all the knowledge of the great ancestors, and various myths are only strongly distorted historical facts about the distant past of our ancestors that once came from no less distant stars. And that is why there are no contacts and will not be. In fact, the galaxy is dead. Something forced our ancestors to flee, forced them to hide at the very edge of the space they know and even further. And the less efficient ones died. And this something could be anything. A disease that our ancestors could not cope with for some reason. A new enemy that surpasses our ancestors in strength or technology. Or maybe something else that we simply cannot imagine. And in this case, there is nothing strange in the fact that the government does not report anything about contacts with aliens. They simply do not exist. There is no one to contact because we are the last remaining in our galaxy. No signal. Well, the latest version. There were simply no contacts. Yes, banal, boring, and in general. No one came to Earth. No one received our signals, just as we did not receive anyone's. Maybe the problem is that the aliens simply use other data transmission technologies that are different from those on Earth, and we are simply not able to detect the same signal, just as they are not able to detect ours. Summing up, I can say the following. It is impossible to say for sure whether there were contacts with extraterrestrial intelligence and whether they are hidden from the general public or not, as it is not clear whether this is good or bad. Humanity is too weak and fragmented to negotiate with peaceful guests from other worlds or to fight off invaders. I believe that as long as our world is in this state, the absence of contacts is the greatest benefit available to us, because it means that humanity still has time. Subscribe to the channel and send me your stories related to aliens by email. You will find contacts in the About the Channel section. Together, we will force the authorities of all countries to disclose all the information they have. After all, people need to know the truth.